Well, I think the big things that I'm seeing at the moment generally, and Femi can comment if you're seeing anything different, but for me, there's definitely been a spike in what we're seeing in terms of anxiety and depression. It was on the news actually the other day that they were talking about how self-harm incidents have now been increasing, especially for people around our age and the adolescents, because of lockdown and because people don't know how to cope and they don't know how to manage, and maybe their support systems have been taken away from them during this whole period. And I think that, now more than ever, and it's funny because Femi and I were having a conversation about this like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, when we really undervalue the power of having such a strong support system. And however you want to create that. Some people want to have that in person, which works well for them. But because of lockdown, we can't be in person. So what can we do in addition? It's not like, I've got no support, so I'm screwed. It's like, okay, well, now we're going to need to improvise in a way that supports our mental health and still allows us to get the same kind of result. Because most times when we do things, any kind of behavior, whether some people turn into alcohol, people binge eating or taking drugs, it's just a way for them to fill the void so they can cope a little bit better with the situation. Now that things have been taken away from them, now the fact that they can't actually, regulate how they normally would or cope how they generally would, they need to now find something else. So it's about like us now being able to encourage and empower people to be like, okay, well, yes, this has thrown a lot of spanners in the work, and especially if you've already got like a diagnosis of, depression, anxiety, or any other mental health comorbidities, it does make it challenging. So what I'm going to say now sounds quite simple, but for those people that are going through it, it's not that straightforward. So it's important to be like, okay, well, during this time, now that I'm coping in this way, let's not feel bad about it because you're just doing the best that you can at the moment with the tools that you have. But what can we do? What's within your control? How's another way that we can still get that same kind of sensation, that feeling of safety or comfort, whatever it is that you're desiring in this digital age, in this age where we can't see people as much as we normally would like to. And that's why we're seeing great things with like Zoom. People would have a lot more like Zoom conferences, family conferences, and connected on Zoom quite frequently, checking up with your friends, having more blocked out time for these kind of things. And I think that really being able to really focus on creating a support system that serves you and making it habitual. So not just the thing where it's like, maybe when I got time, I'll call them, but like, no, like maybe like every night on Monday, it's a night where I depress, relax, and I speak to my friends, and I do that daily. It's part of a habit to get me to feel like this lockdown situation isn't as overwhelming as it is. That's like one out of like the many tools that I think is really, really undervalued, but is so, so powerful in helping people to be able to combat this coronavirus. Because without my friends in the situation I'm in at the moment, for me.
Thing about this whole kind of process, like I was mentioning, in terms of the uncertainty, in terms of the anxiety, in terms of the depression, is there is so much happening and it's difficult to make sense of it. So if there's so much happening and it's difficult to make sense of it, I think it's really, really important to establish a set routine of things that do make sense. Have an anchor. Anchoring yourself is a very important process that allows you to have some kind of certainty in a world of so much speculation. So a good example, and I'm sure that many people have heard of saying that's, really said quite commonly in like personal development or whatever it is, but it's actually quite true in psychology as well in terms of, look, you may not be able to control the day, but you control the morning. So being able to have a really solid morning routine in terms of mindfulness, what Nick was saying in terms of like having that connection, maybe every morning you call your friends or every morning you have a set routine that gives you that certainty. Like, at least I know I'm going to have these important things in my life at this time. That's an important thing to be able to have, especially going into times where you don't know what the next day is going to look like, what the next week's going to look like, what anything's going to look like. And that's why I think a lot of people are struggling because they don't have that. Routine's gone out the window because they were depending on work and other external factors to give them that routine. And then when all that kind of goes out the window, it's kind of like, well, what do I do? I've lost who I am. I've lost my routine. I've lost the structure in my life. So establishing that structure is quite important. I'm not saying plan out every minute of your life for the rest of lockdown, but having some kind of anchors throughout your day is going to make you feel a lot better.
Awesome. And like, I guess like we all go through challenges in life. Like I haven't had, lots of bad ones that I've had to deal with, but I've had lots of adversity over the years, just naturally just pushing through barriers and whatnot. And getting out of ruts, like sometimes you can feel like you're sort of the world's on your shoulders. And I look back maybe like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, and seen different stages of my life where like things feel like they push you down. And I guess it's how you pull out your side and bring yourself through that. You guys specialize in mental health. How does your physical health fit into mental health as well? Like, how does that connection, like, say if someone's, depressed, but then they're just sitting in their house, like, is there a pattern there? Like, is there stuff that people could be doing physically that could help them out as well? Or?
Yeah, definitely. There's actually been a lot of research and studies that show the connection between our physical health and our mental health. And even an area of interest at the moment is how important our gut health is in terms of being able to regulate and control our mental health, is also another interesting and fascinating study. So it's weird because sometimes we look at mental health as it's just the brain, that's it, but there's no correlation whatsoever with everything else that I do. But it's actually the complete opposite. It's a holistic approach with our mental health. And I think that, like you were saying, for people that are like, maybe they're just lounging around, not really doing much, I would really encourage you guys as much as possible to see what you can do physically to be able to improve your situation, not only just for like your weight loss and how you look, but also the benefits it has with your mental health. So even like simple things like going for walks, maybe around the house, or maybe doing some gardening that you probably wouldn't normally do, but now you can do because of mental health. It doesn't need to be this strenuous kind of exercise routine where it's like, okay, now I'm going to start lifting weights and getting jacked. If you want to do that, great. Like that'll be beneficial too. But just that movement, like whatever that looks like, movement is the most essential thing that we want to be able to do. And obviously from like depression, we already speak about how when you're depressed, exercise is a good form of treatment because you get those feel good chemicals that release of like the serotonin and endorphins and that chemical, that big sensation with your hormones because you are doing exercise. So I think that if people aren't doing anything at the moment, I'd really, really encourage them at some way, and as part of your structure, going back to routine, to integrate some form of movement, whether you want to dance, do things around the house, go for jogs, go for walks, whatever it is that you want to do. There's no right or wrong way to move. You just do whatever feels right, and you will see inevitably some benefit with your mental health from there.
Cool. And Femi, you got any?
Yeah, I think that, like Nick said, they work in tandem. You know what I mean? You're never going to have great physical health. You're never going to have great mental health and having poor physical health to whatever degree. They work in tandem, and it's quite difficult to have great physical health. And in real physical health, I don't just mean you're fit. I mean actual physical health in terms of sleep, nutrition, and exercise, and then be feeling these feelings of depression and anxiety. It can happen. It can happen to anybody. But I'm saying that they work in tandem and they work really well together. So if we know that, and we know that they have a correlation, it's really important to, again, what I was saying is have some kind of routine for it. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's so game changing to have structure with those things. So to having you're eating the right things, you're sleeping well, you're doing your physical movement, as Nick was saying. Like, it's so important as a preemptive, but also from a reactive point of view, because mental health and like coping strategies are two-sided. They can either be proactive or reactive. Proactive means before anything's happened, it's something that you do routine, and they're building up your resilience. And then there's also reactive that's like, well, this is happening right now. What do I do to ease it and get some kind of respite from these feelings? These like physical health and like exercise and movement particularly are valid for both. It can be obviously establishing your physical health generally, but then also when you're feeling anxious and you have all of these hormones, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn hormones, being able to move can help burn off the cocktail of hormones that you're feeling, right? So being able to have those things at the forefront when it comes to your mental health is going to be absolutely game changing.
I guess, like, for me, like, looking just at like when people come to us just for like success, or like, from a financial realm, on that side, like some people, a lot of it's the mindset when people come to us. It's like, they either think they can do it, they can't do it, whatever. And looking at, if someone's, I guess, feeling depressed at the moment, they're trapped in their house, whatever, if you clean your room, then you're going to feel accomplishment, I guess, and you get something you've achieved. If you decide, I wanted to paint the house and paint the gutters, and you go do that, you're feeling that things are happening. So I guess it's changing that mindset to be able to build a to-do list, perhaps, or whatever. I don't know if that's something that, and start ticking off and you're making progress. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think absolutely. A to-do list, something that's visual. People just want to be able to feel. And I think this is something that we're even trying to do a lot more in the mental health space, is to be able to show people the tangible results and changes that they're making. Because I think like with anything, even if we step aside from mental health and we look about like our physical health, for example, where the goal is trying to lose weight, people get motivated when they're seeing results happen. When I step on the scale and I see that I've dropped a kilo from all my hard work, you feel that sense of accomplishment, which is going to encourage you to keep going. And with our mental health, it's a recovery process. We're going to be doing this for the rest of our lives. So you do want to feel to some degree, whether it's true or false, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of we're making the right steps daily and we are progressing. We always like to be able to feel like there's an end result, there's an end outcome at the end of the day. And I think that more so what we're trying to do even here at Recharge as well is show people that tangible change, show people the tangible results so that they don't feel like, a good analogy or example that we like to look at is that most times when we tell people to like meditate or, do some form of mindfulness activity, because we know how good it is, especially with, combating depression and anxiety, people are straight away like, okay, if I do this, I want to be able to feel a result straight away. I'm expecting something from doing this meditation practice. And then when they do it and they feel nothing, they're like, this doesn't work for me. I'm not going to do it anymore. And they start going back into their other habits and their coping mechanisms that they were doing. So what we want to be able to do, though, is that people would normally take like medication, for example. When they take it, they'll feel a result straight away. Okay, yeah, I'm less stressed. You take any of like a diazepam or anything that gives you those kind of, relieving sensations, you're going to feel that straight away. So that's going to be the direct thing that you're going to do all the time. Same thing if you take alcohol, you're automatically feeling like your mood's kind of repressed a little bit. So we need to show people, just more so to emphasize your point, Nathan, is that show people that they are making progress. And how can we do that? With a simple to-do list, or just a monitoring in mood, How was I feeling before this meditation? How am I feeling after this meditation? Okay, there's a difference in scale from 1 to 10. Those simple things that we can do and letting them know that it's at the forefront is really, really motivating and encouraging for people. And I think that when we start moving into that realm and showing people the success, showing people the tangibility and the changes that they're doing that seem intangible, I think that's going to be the way of the future.